Hello, everyone, and welcome. This would be usually the last week's horoscope of the year 2024, but instead of that, especially because next week is also New Year, I would rather do a general themes or the key themes of the year 2025 horoscope, where of course I try to break it down to months, but the first months of the year 2024, sorry, 2025, are more relevant from an energetic, especially energetic shift perspective. So I'm going to be focusing a bit more on them and less on the end of the year. But of course, hopefully, we can't take anything for granted, right? I'll be here to guide you through all through 2025 as well. And with this being said, I would like to thank each and every one of you who chose me and my channel as your source of astrological weather guidance, despite the fact that my channel is very, very modest and I don't emphasize on meeting the modern standards. So thank you so very, very much. It means a lot to me that you're with me, especially that my channel is nothing all that special from any perspective. So, before we even begin the year 2025, the very last day of 2024 is special in its own right, and that is because it hosts the new moon in the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn, without too much, introduction, is a very, very potent earth sign. And outside the sphere of psychology and personality archetypes, well, Capricorn is the stage of manifestation. Exactly how above enters below. It is the gateway to the below. What is possible and, of course, not possible in the earthly plane. Sorry. And Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. And Saturn is also active on this 31st of December, the last day of 2024, because it sextiles the new moon phenomenon, but more tightly the moon itself in Capricorn. So it has a very important message that we must, when I say must, well, understand it as you will, not necessarily as an obligation. However, many of us are in the situation where we must break through or else bad consequences, right? So, yes, we must bring something into the earthly plane. On this 31st of December 2024, all of us, or as many of us as can possibly muster this, need to be channelers where we, and please excuse these rather unelegant and or unorthodox words, we suck something into the earthly plane from the ether, like sponges or like, I don't know, even parasites, if you will, because let's be honest, human beings have parasitical nature as well. We're not all, harmless, right? Our diet, and I don't necessarily mean the predatory part, the parasitical part. Okay, symbiotic, if you will, right? But anyway, well, we must leech right now the divine essence, the dream, our dream, but also the collective dream, the grand dream, because this new moon is the first gateway, and how this, in so very many ways, ties into The big themes of 2025 we'll see later on in this horoscope, but trust me on this, it's almost like a miniature 2020, that the 31st is like a miniature 2025. This is where someone buys, let's say, like a new fancy shiny, or better said, receives it as a present. Yeah, I'll go with this. Receives it as a present. But the way they receive it is that first they get a miniature toy, a perfect miniature copy of the real deal, but it's a miniature, and then they'll let outside and they see the big thing. This is how we should unwrap this present. It's because the new moon in Capricorn, let's manifest. Let's, whatever we need, right? Whatever we as individuals need, because the individual's satisfaction level is part of the collective strength. A strong collective needs strong individuals. And understand this on any level you wish, in any way you wish, and still my idea stands that a strong collective needs strong individuals, diverse, special, etc., etc., whatever strength means. And strength. Pluto, you may say, well, isn't Mars the classical strength? Yes, absolutely. However, when we speak about bigger collective strength, well, that's more of the domain of Pluto, or a hyper strong individual, whatever way you want it. That's also a more Plutonian expression, because Pluto did something with Mars. Also, on this 31st, but this is gonna stay with us all through January, really. We have the Mars-Pluto opposition. So we are feeling, and this is the third and second time the opposition will perfect. So the second, because there is going to be a third one when Mars goes direct further in 2025. So that's the domain of end of February, when it starts going direct in Cancer. But when it will perfect its opposition, it's much later on. But we'll get to that too in detail. But we're feeling this very strongly. Maybe something overwhelms us, or something is too intense. Something is very, very, very concentrated, focused, singularized, to the level either of powerless, leaving us powerless, draining us from power, for example, or to the degree of obsessive power. Something with power, and we're gonna feel this physically as well. But let's be real about this. And because Mars is in Leo, we're gonna feel this also rather sensually or otherwise as well. But we're not there yet. We're just at the full moon. Sorry, the new moon in Capricorn. So this new moon is, yes, let us start getting real, that our futures and what we build depends on us. So let's first of all suck in the spirit, suck in the ether, the building material, and the dream. Of course, the dream is our creation. New moon, right? That's very creational energy, the seed of intention. And as I said in the new moon video, usually the last day of the year is by default, in many cultures, in their own unique ways, in many parts of the world, again by default, is a period when people just do this. Endings, beginnings, playing with symbols, gathering, wishing, oh, how I wish, New Year's resolutions, especially if there's wisdom in that, not just, you know, how Aries usually. I don't mean to be horrible to Aries natives, but this is so specific to Aries. There it is, the 31st of December, the party. It's almost midnight. I don't know what happened. Something clicks in them. I just feel like I'm gonna quit this and that next year. But they don't even ask themselves at that obsessive or crazy or moment if I need to quit it or it's doing me harm or quite the opposite. Because you know what I mean. There are moments when to quit and detox and embrace a totally different lifestyle, but there are times, well, don't, whatever, you don't do this because you need your comfort zone very much. So, you know, but Aries natives not only promise this, like, but they can pull it off. Despite what I said, they pull it off and with smiles and with trophies. They did it. Exemplary. But that doesn't mean for the rest of the zodiac, this is something wise or doable or is a good example. Because no, Aries natives are different beings to the rest of us. They can do things that no one else can, and it doesn't have to make all that much sense to anyone else but to them. Now, you would say, aren't Pisces natives like this? Well, no, because even though the effect might be the same, the impossible for them is very possible and common even. It doesn't depend on them. It's not them who drives this. Aries natives drive their own. That's the big difference. That's why no one can do what they can do because they are driving this stuff. But this is also important, what I said. It's not even just a philosophical and astrological archetype analysis detour, but the North Node is at 0 degrees of Aries on the third. Okay, let's say that on the 1st of January, but or the moment between the two. But 0 degrees of Aries is, well, maybe it's just my personal and very subjective opinion, one of the most important degrees of the zodiac, because it's the alpha, the beginning, when spirit enters the earthly. May that be a dream, just a fantasy, a thought. Aries the head. So it is where thoughts are born, but there's a much better word to this. Not necessarily created, not even generated, but when fire comes to life, what's that word? You know, it's just sparks, it just sparks into existence. Or when lightning creates itself, or spontaneity like that. Or in any way you wish, when something is in alpha state, stage, and state, even. May that be software, a newborn baby, right? Etc., etc. It goes in any way, shape, and form for anything. May that be something more directly earthly, like the baby, newborn baby, because that's really when the baby's autonomous life begins or starts beginning. You know what I mean? That's more earthly, that's more direct, but it can also be true for the song that's gonna be a big schlager or whatever, but the moment when he hasn't even written it, but it's in bed dreaming, right? Or Aries, North Node in Aries. Well, this is the moment when she has understand it in the sense of a song lyrics. She moves on from the heartbreak, and that means she needs to pour the ending, the symbol of into the song, the lyric. This is when she cooks it up. Neptune, Saturn, 2025, the beginning of 2025. Well, they support this like cheerleaders. You go, girl, write it. And then comes, let's say, there can be more than one moment, of course, but let's say like June, when the Schlager is there and we start deeply, madly falling in love with it. But this is very quickly changing the artists and everyone who contributed to the creation of the song to their own life's change, the fulfillment of their own destiny. So this is just a story, a dream, a fantasy, an exam, and but you know astrology. What I just said can actually be in a realistic way someone's story, how it will play out, because this is like a mold that holds whatever you pour into it, and it solidifies. And you can imagine that the example used by me is the typical classical situation of 50% of artists out there. Someone has to debut, and this is the typical story of how it happens. So, of course, it will match perfectly one of their stories, because this is how the universe produces. It's the same, even in the hyper new futuristic where everything's a mystery and new era, the same old universal birth of an artist with the hero's story philosophically in it, the same, right? Nothing's all that new, even though everything's new. And now with this, I think we already began 2025 because we are at the 1st of January. But before I go to the dates and showing you the relevant aspects, let's just speak about in a non-technical way about what the year is really gonna be themed on, based chord on, because you don't need astrology to understand that, and neither do you need astrology to see that coming, right? Because it's already very big time in motion. So yeah, it needs an understanding of this, and then we'll go to the more relevant, let's say, dates and moments. And this video is not gonna include or mention the retrogrades of the year, except Venus and Mars, because Mars is so linked, tied into it that, yeah. But the rest of the retrogrades, I'm gonna probably make a separate video about them, and yeah. Especially the Mercury retrograde dates, the Venus retrograde dates, and some outer planets. So, but this being said, this year, astrologically, energetically, so this year as in 2025, the bigger theme, the more important theme is the big planets shifting, changing signs because this, in a way, will feel more dynamic, more change is really here, but I'm not working to it's here. A change that is bigger than me is already here, and I need to adapt. This is not the type of big changes and transformations we've been through since 2020 and even before until the present, because those are where we are cooking stuff up in our alchemical laboratories and changing and cutting cords and traumas and all that. This is where this is different. This is where like a snowfall, the first snow, we're asleep and we wake up that all of a sudden everything is different and we need to adapt or else. So it's that type of change. And I cannot disagree with the fact that, of course, the previous years, especially for example, like 2020, like that's big, huge time. That's a titan period in space time. That, however, this is gonna feel more of a change than even that, because it's different change. It's totally different, but this may be the same intensity, and that's why it's important. Saturn and Neptune following one another, almost like chasing each other, like kids, or like athletes passing the how you call that to one another, that little baton thing, uh, into Aries, from Pisces into Aries. And this is huge. Now, if it would be just Saturn doing this by himself alone in nothing special type of circumstances, even that is massive, big. That is felt strongly every 30-ish years or so as Saturn completes a cycle. That's felt so strongly every 30 years. Well, imagine that this 30 years, so this moment when it begins anew, it exits Pisces, or better said, is in the process of it, because 2025 is a process year. It's not the finale. It is exactly where, I'm so sorry again for a rather not innocent example, but when something is not, when it's pushed through the birth canal, right? That is something is pushed through the birth canal, and that something includes basically everything, including us, inner, outer. So it's this type of energy, because both Saturn and Neptune will retrograde back into Pisces for the last time, also in 2025. And that will be truly the end of the end. And this is what I'm trying to say. Saturn is working hand in hand with Neptune all through this period. They're making this transition together. Now, depends how you want to see it. Is it Saturn guiding Neptune or Neptune guiding Saturn? And Pisces is actually permissive, that you can see it any way you want and it's still true and valid, and not true at the same time. But they accompany each other. So this is big, this is important, because on one hand, Neptune himself is only here every 200 something years. So it's not any finale just. And Saturn makes whatever Neptune is about very, 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 very dangerously real. So it becomes real, and that the spirit, the dream, the fantasy, the delusion, the paranoia, anything that's in the collective unconscious, even the nasty. But I don't necessarily want to say the good news, but we still have time to clean our act exactly in the collective unconscious sense. But how do you clean the collective unconscious? Well, the Middle Ages and even the modern ages showed us how not to do it. Inquisition, fanaticism, let's send everything that we subjectively think doesn't belong in our environment to the other side. Because that's what you're doing. And the other side is outraged and sends it back 10 times stronger. We learned the lesson, but we haven't learned the lesson. We haven't, because we are doing it now. When your ears are registering my voice, it's happening. We're sending what we don't like and don't agree with to the other side. Well, this is unwise even in, how should I say? Evil per se, evil, right? Does not do this as first resort because it knows it's unwise. Then you get what I mean. It's not wise. You don't just pack up what you don't like and send it over to back to the architect or back to, because you don't do that. But in the Middle Ages, let's say we couldn't know better because we didn't remember. Because Lethe washed away our memories of who we were. So that's excusable. Now I don't know in which degree is it. Because let's look at it from a Jupiter and Gemini perspective. Stripping all emotion from it and morality. It causes imbalance, and any imbalance will cause a reaction. Like, I don't even know the best analogy to use here, but no, there are reasons why you don't pollute excessively the environment, right? There are reasons why it doesn't matter your level of greed, you don't cut out a forest totally. So this is what I'm talking about. You cannot basically compromise something to the degree where you know it will have, in a must way, very, very, in a quantum physics way almost, very, very dire, severe consequences. So why is this important? Because that's what's happening right now, everywhere and to all of us. We're cleaning up our acts, cleaning up everything that we possibly can, starting on the inside. So you can imagine karma, family dynamics, relationship dynamics, getting to the level of wisdom that accepting things about ourselves, no longer judging the way we survive, coming down from the clouds and understanding that even ideals and philosophies and what we want to believe in needs to be Piscean in a healthy way and not necessarily in an unhealthy way. So we're all of us are doing this. And why? Because this is the pattern. This is almost like when you find a hedgehog out in the cold, you know that if you put it in a warm nest, it will survive, and give it a bit of food and leave it alone, it will survive. So even the cosmos itself knows what to do to press the regeneration button. Is it gonna be, what is it, in which degree is it gonna help? It doesn't matter, because any degree is good. Any cleanup, any regeneration, any well-being, anything is good. Anything helps. Any little, anything. You treating yourself to that warm meal, which usually you wouldn't give to yourself because of principles and reasons and this and that, going against your principles for once and being genuinely, not because of the mind tells you so, but because you really feel it in your heart towards yourself, doing that for yourself just once, well, it does a lot of good. But again, clean up with Saturn and Jupiter. Yeah, actually, no, I'm not taking that back. Saturn and Jupiter, but also Saturn and Neptune. The cleanup is very, very important, very worth it, and it's doing a lot of. So let's go with the flow, regardless of how heavy it feels and what kind of inner feelings, thoughts, truths, pleasures, whatever inner we discover that usually we would not even want to look at. Now let's do something with it. Let's clean it. And that doesn't mean, of course, elimination, but rather integration. Because everything that we find within us, every emotion, every memory, every deja vu, everything has a story, has a meaning, has an importance. So let us be brave enough to use this energy and allow the cleanup to take place. So this is very, very specific to the first months of 2025, when Saturn and Neptune are preparing to eliminate themselves out of Pisces. Pisces, the past, the finality, the closure, the ending. But at the same time, Pisces is a dual sign. From the very same realm comes the beginning, the spirit, the dream, the aspiration, and speaking about the dream, coincidentally, Neptune and Saturn are going to converse with Venus a lot in the sign of Pisces and also in Aries. But Pisces is Venus's exaltation. That is the sign where she loves being, and she can bring out her unlimited, unbound, unconditioned beauty and love. With Saturn and Neptune as Venus's higher octave. So whenever Venus and Neptune meet, well, it's a big concentration of feelings and value. But in Pisces, when I say value, it's definitely not the money. It's that which money cannot even dream of buying, stuff like that. And substances and escapism, but this is where chances are it's the rather more positive or magical side of those. And Saturn, the realism of it, but also, let's not forget the elimination part, where Well, it doesn't matter how beautiful your dream was, sweetie. Let it go and replace it with something much more suitable to the person who you are today. Let me give you an example. And this is a bit tricky because some people are very sensitive to this topic. We are in the late 90s or early 2000s. You can imagine how many young people, for example, myself included, were more inside than externally speaking, massive warriors of nature. Me, well, I was the more spiritual warrior of nature. Other peers, like, for example, colleagues, classmates, whatever, were more like physical. Others were more tactical or entrepreneurial. But everyone, or very, very many, were kind of united in spirit to protect the environment, reduce pollution. The ice is gonna melt and drown all of us without fail. We're gonna literally suffocate in our cities. Everything is gonna be a desert in a few years. So you can imagine. The nobility of our spirit also had a strong paranoia educated aggressively into us at school by the teachers who were puppets in a certain way, because there is education and there is propaganda, which you do not know because it's a theory. You can't prove it. The very same people, souls in 2024, myself and all of my fellow warriors, regardless of what our special skill was, feel and see things totally differently because we understood not by science, but rather living life. And I don't know, having a farm, having a dog, what everyone their camping, mountaineering, hiking, sun, sea, everyone their own unique methodology. Well, we came to the conclusion that Mother Earth takes care of herself, and if she doesn't necessarily want it to, we're not a threat, and none of our technology and pollution and anything that we were paranoid about is not as real as we thought and were told it was, because no one told us this. Yes, that's true. It's a potential future, but Mother Nature is stronger than even that. Now that we know, well, we're not fighting the same way. We're just picking up the trash, and we are doing other stuff to fight the same battles that when we were in our teens and most of our young adult lives were fighting different ways, right? We change the same. My example, in my subjective opinion, is so perfect to describe 2025 and how we change in spirit, we change in philosophy, we get down from the pedestal and adapt to the reality of the situation. And sometimes the reality of the situation is not what we think, it's the opposite of what we ever thought in this life. That the earthly isn't as real as we thought. The dream is much realer than the earthly. It was always the other way around. So this in itself is so Neptune, so Pisces, so Saturn in the picture, and ultimately Venus, because when you wake up to this, reality is very romantic, even if it's sad, right? Because romance has sad romance too, and it's beautiful. Everything is going to be beautiful. everything, even if it doesn't make sense and even if it bothers us. Venus will dish out beauty. But if we go back to spring 2022, we had a different degree of Pisces, different planets, except 1 and 2, but we got a taster of this energy. Remember April when Jupiter and Neptune and Venus met in their triple conjunction. And in that April, I don't know for you guys, but even though I know because I was communicating with you, many of my listeners, what was that? Like that was truly where reality was not solid. We were walking dimensions, timelines, stuff that doesn't happen usually happened on a daily basis. But of course, you say, well, yes, but Jupiter in Pisces kind of does that. Absolutely, yes, I agree with you. But Jupiter is going to move into another place in 2024 in June, where it also loves being in, and that's Cancer. And it is going to challenge from Cancer Neptune and Saturn, but mostly Saturn. It is going to ask ultimately from Saturn that it keeps the dream alive. Because Saturn moves into Aries, and in Aries, it's a different domain than Pisces. Exactly the large symbolism of Aries, the first breath, the dream, or the newborn. Well, you don't know who the newborn is going to become when they're 18 or whatever age you want. You don't know that. You hope you contribute to it, work, Saturn, you sacrifice towards it, but you still don't know, and it's never truly under your control, because if it is, then it's don't be a parent, then release the child from the cage immediately. So you know what I mean? It's every creation will be what it will be besides Saturn. And Saturn has to respect that in Aries. So what I want to say with this, it's not it's not like obligated to respect the dreams specifics, right? However, Jupiter taps it on the shoulder and says, yeah, but yes, Saturn, you'd better respect the dream. You better keep the dream alive. And Neptune follows Saturn into Aries. So Neptune will keep the dream alive. And both of them will go back to Pisces in order to add the finishing touches. So basically what I said is, wait a minute, no. The other big energy shift is Uranus entering the sign of Gemini. However, it will retrograde out similarly to how both Neptune and Saturn have to finish their job in Pisces. Uranus has to finish his job in Taurus. So this in itself is a big energy shift, and we're going to feel it massively, but it's not locked in. It's not permanent yet, but it's very important. Very, very, very important. And another big energy shift that's right off the bat in the very beginning of January, the nodes of the moon and exit Aries and enter Pisces. And again, the dream. The big dream. And the node will conjunct, North Node in Pisces will conjunct both Saturn and Neptune as the year progresses, and Venus, and eclipses and everything you'd like. Everything, all that's special. And speaking about the new beginning, the fact that Aries hosts the eclipse, not Pisces, the sign containing the node, points to the fact that the beginnings are much more important than the endings. Beginning, beginning, beginning. But the other side that it's eclipse, fated. How there's only so much control we had over it. So this is also the specific of 2025. Control. What is it? What is healthy? What is not? How to surrender, and when not to surrender. Uranus, when to rebel, what to rebel against, when to innovate, how to innovate, what is dangerous innovation, what is the right way of doing it. Then Uranus enters Gemini. This is the moment when everything is outside the box. This is when the mind blows up, and okay, it may feel like just the mind blowing up and that's it. However, it is like when a star blows up and something new and nova and radiation and all that new and creation follows. So it's good, just that we cannot see that it's good. But of course, I will have a Uranus in Gemini video like every other astrologer out in 2025 as well. But it will innovate the education system big time. What learning in itself means. So this is where bye old type of learning and schools and teaching. This is the new begins. And Uranus is the planet, right, of big innovation in the future and all. Yes. However, whenever Uranus enters any sign, before it dishes the new to the table, it has to highlight what is now, why the innovation is necessary. And for that to happen, everything that was improvised in a bad way, it reverts it back to original. So that is good. Because any type of twisted, toxic, harmful, nonsense, delusional education system and Gemini, may it be mainstream or alternative, Uranus will demolish very, very quickly. And then all of us, in a certain way, collectively, symbolically, will revert back to, well, teaching means something very, very simple. You don't need to complicate it. Teaching means spending time with children. Teaching means accompanying children on their own adventure. Teaching means allowing children to learn the world on their own, guided by their own instincts, specifics, dreams, fantasies, playfulness, delusion. Even the bad is good, right? But you are there making sure that everything is A-okay. Not that you're enslaving the child's mind and dictating it something false. Of the biggest lie of all, that physical reality conditions. No! You only do that to children who are meant to possess the earthly plane and protect it and administer it to other children. You don't teach this. You teach other things. But Uranus will definitely do its job, but we're going to be feeling this mentally. We're going to be feeling it big time. Connections and anything that Gemini rules. Brotherhood, sisterhood, siblings. both real siblings, as in things happen in bro sis's life, guaranteed 1 trillion%. So prepare yourself, because you're going to be sucked into their adventure or life story or whatever, like it or not, want it or not, bye. But this is also true for any other type of bro sis, because Uranus is the alternative. Well, the fact that weren't born from the same mother and same country, continent, Uranus even in the same dimension, no problem. Why is it a problem? No problem. That's also Uranus in Gemini. Brothers in spirit, Uranus in Gemini. Brothers in principle, Uranus in Gemini. I can be brother to anyone who has the same principle, regardless, they're not even a human being. No problem. Uranus in Gemini. The horse is not an animal, but rather my colleague in the, I don't know, transport, army, or wherever a horse is working, is my colleague. Not a horse, but a colleague. It doesn't matter that he is different species. The horse is equal to me. Uranus in Gemini. The police dog is a colleague. Uranus in Gemini. The dog is a family member and sits at the table and has his everything just like the person. Uranus in Gemini. So this is the vibe that is going to be very specific to an end. Okay, let me tell you a different side of Uranus and Gemini. I identify as Uranus and Gemini is gonna, I'm not even sure of the terms to use here, because bully it out with information or with art, but that's how it's gonna be like. Because Uranus and Gemini, if it has an enemy, that I identify as. If it has an ally, that's where I have such a big talent at something that I allow myself to defy reality, even your reality. That's what Uranus and Gemini supports, cheers for, and loves. What it goes against is when we just think something, and that's it. So you can imagine that it's going to be very ruthless. Very, 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 very ruthless. And Uranus and Gemini, I'm just trying to put this into the best possible word cocktail. You know, there is that type of brotherly love which hurts when it's your brother or sister who's cutting your delusion very quickly and painfully, usually also with a few slaps. Like, this is where, let me give you an example. There's the 14-year-old sister, and she's going out to, socialize with other children. But the big sister sees that, okay, but she has lipstick on and her clothes are a bit way too not 14-year-old like. And then she slaps her that, sweetie, you're not gonna go out and get raped, or you don't need boys in your life. No, no. Oh, no, you don't. So this is what I'm talking about. There's gonna be many of this. So you can imagine tears and hysteria and slaps, but also this is a 7-year transit. Gratitude. Thank you, sister, thank you, sister, brother, sibling, or as I said, even non-flesh and blood, for slapping me into my senses. So this is where Uranus will try and awake to reality with the kindness before it gets to the other. But this is also where dude or dudette, you're not my bro or sis, really, if you're ignorant to my whatever Uranus will bring to the table. So this will also mean big cord cuttings, but in a non-karmic and Saturnian way. So 2025 is going to be an extra special year, I can tell you that. So what is January about? Let's begin. At the very end of January, I know I'm beginning with the end again. Uranus goes direct at 23 degrees of Taurus. So that's like always social, political, and financial earthquake and rebellion and volcanic activity and earthquakes but we're used to this. That season of the year when this happens. Pluto is opposing also Mars. We must not forget that. All through January, we are feeling that. And also Pluto makes certain minor aspects. So on the world stage, the fight is on and it's dirty. Dirty. Fighting dirty. Below the belt. And I am not gonna even... on the 1st of January, North Node 0 degrees of Aries, the world stage. Big time. But this is the North Node in Aries fighting for South Node 0 degrees in Libra. The current legal system, law, diplomats, politicians, the current other side of the scale, whatever is on the other side of the scale, us against them. Or better said, people against. But we see this play out on the world stage, big time, already, nothing new. On the 6th of January, Mars exits Leo and retrogrades back into Cancer at 29 degree. That's always an erratic degree, so we are used to this again. Borders, where are the separators between two lands, two nations, and history? Whose property? Who did what? I don't need to detail this any further. On the 12th of January, now this is actually nice because as Mars is back in Cancer, it trines Neptune. We understand the dark side. I mean, the not so nice expression of Mars in Cancer, the borders, the aggressiveness, the toxicity, the same old, never-ending emotional, the feelings that are not dying out. But there is also forgiveness. There is also let it rest. There is also kindness. There is also solidarity. There is also for the sake of love, let's do it. There is also family and love and the power of love, really. Long story short, the power of love. And we need that so very much. And also, Mars is the activator. It gives Neptune power. Neptune, actually, let's put the screen to that 12th of January. So here we see Neptune and Mars at 27 degrees of their respective signs. Mars in the sign of Cancer, and of course the moon is here at this 12th of January is gonna conjoin Mars. Moon is the ruler of Cancer, so it's almost like the queen of the sky came to this celebration or this ritual, because Pisces, Cancer, ritual energy of release, of healing, of expressing the power of love, the power of communion, the power of everyone matters. No one is left behind. Everyone is equally important. So this is a beautiful energy, and I really, really love this. Um, Now I spoke so much about January. Let's move to February a little bit. A key theme in February is gonna be, on one hand, that the nodes are already in Pisces, Virgo axis. And here we have the 2nd of February, 2-2. And 2025 begins with twos as well. 2-2-2-2-2. People who love numeric synchronicity and are into numerology in a more passionate way than astrology, I mean, will definitely wait for that 2nd of February. But what's really special here is that Venus conjoins the North Node and Neptune. And this is beautiful. This is magical. This is romantic. This is really, really good. Because this is the type of energy where it doesn't matter how it looks on the outside, as in doom, gloom. Like Pisces, the other expression of Pisces, victim, martyr, and sadness, and undoing of the self, and, damnation. And it's, the positive side is where that doesn't matter, because right now it has no power, because this is the power of love. This is the power of the dream. This is the power of the Holy Ghost, basically, because this is the North Node. And because North Node is a lunar, and the moon was conjunct also. This triple conjunction, because the moon itself loves and is so magical in the sign of Pisces, the North Node is the node of the moon, so it is a lunar energy, regardless of what other things it does. So you can imagine, it's really comfortable. It works in Pisces very well, empowered by Neptune in Pisces, ruling it. And then Saturn prepares to conjunct the North Node, making it real. Okay, also challenge, also I need to embody Saturn, not just dream it, and not just empty words, empty dreams, empty fantasy. I need to embody. However, this February, especially the 2nd of February, has magical power, miraculous power. Tears, big tears, flood of tears. And the 4th of February is magical in itself because Jupiter moves direct. And Jupiter will pick up speed and simply whiz through Gemini into Cancer. And Gemini is, sorry, no. Jupiter, what I wanted to say, is really in quantum mode after it goes direct. And we will feel that. This spring is going to be so quick and so intense. And oh my goodness. So there's that. And another memorable moment in February, the 9th here, is when Mars and Saturn, and again the moon, trine. Okay, Mars and Saturn are the malefics, especially according to the ancients. So this can make anything that is there in emotion, feeling, and reaction, very amplified, very heated. The fight can be on. But the other side of this energy is where that doesn't mean that everywhere there has to be a fight. This also amps up. Let's make something real. Solidarity, compassion, emotion, love, family, accepting one another. Pisces dissolves borders. Cancer, dissolving borders. The queen of this energy, the moon, in Cancer, home. And if I'm not mistaken, not at this very moment on the 9th of February, but the days following, Mars will conjoin Sirius. Or am I mistaking? I think I BS'd you a little bit because Mars was already conjoined Sirius. Or no, 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 no. I was right the first time. Mars will conjoin Sirius after powerful, creational, emotional, the power of love, the power of mother, the power of maternal love can do anything, the cosmic mother, the great mother of all that is, the mother of Mother Earth, right? The celestial mother in any way, shape, and form you wanna. She is stepping up big time. So February is definitely gonna be a kind of month of the mother. Let's move to March. Where is it? Well, the 1st of March is important because Venus retrograde begins at 10 degrees of Aries, and she will retrograde back to Pisces, conjoining other planets in Pisces again and Neptune. But I'm sorry, I already said that. Yeah. Venus retrograde ends on the 12th of April, so we'll get to that later on. So March is also pretty special because it is when the eclipse season begins. On the 14th of March, we have a total lunar eclipse at 23 degrees of Virgo. Let me just. Oh, this will do. Or well, no. Sorry, technology, right? So what I'm looking for is the 14th. There we are. So we have the there we go. I was at a different year. We have the total lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo, where you can see it will be at 23 degrees of Virgo. I wanted to move the moon back to 23 degrees, but I rather not because I'm just making it much more worse than better. It's a very powerful energy, a very powerful elimination. And we're going to be feeling this quite physically as well, because Virgo is the gut, digestive tract. Pisces is the liquids in our, for example, blood, hormones, etc., etc. So this is a very, very powerful elimination, hand in hand with Saturn, the reality, but also melting boundaries. This is a big completion of something. So this is big, 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 big energy. How it will play out on the world stage, we will see, but you can imagine this is a big ending. Big, big ending. And both Pisces, Virgo, sacrifice axis, um, service, what we do with compassion. Pisces, the invisible inner part of compassion, the feelings. Virgo, the action or what the earthly expression of that, what that does, right? What compassion leads to. So this axis is very important, very powerful. And the total lunar eclipse, a big ending, big revelation, medical axis as well. So big, big, big energy. And leading up to the very end of March on the 29th, when we have, you guessed it, a partial solar eclipse, and as I said earlier, in Aries, a new moon in Aries. The node, north node eclipse, the node is in Pisces. So outer sign, conjunction, if you will. Not a conjunction, but, and Mercury is in the area. Venus and Neptune are conjoined, both with the node and at energetic degrees of Pisces. So what am I saying here? Karma, big Mercury at 0 degrees of Aries. It's hitting the news, it's public, it's world stage directly out there. News, everyone talking about it. Mercury retrograde. Again, it's emphasizing big time, it's screaming at something. It's loud, Venus retrograde. That means Venus and Mercury are conjunct. We're speaking what we're feeling. Something big is going on in the world. But new moon, especially in Aries, first breath, creation, solution, fighting for the first results of what is being fought for. Big, 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 big energy. Then let's go to April. Well, April, generally, Mars is going to be trying with this Pisces planet. Oh, uh-oh. There we go. So Mars trines on and off when it's in Cancer, the Pisces planets. The 9th of April is one of the many dates. We're going to be feeling this, and remember, this is very empowering. Mercury finishing its retrograde, Venus wrapping up its retrograde, Saturn also in trine range of Mars. This is a very important trine. Making something real. Putting big, big, big power into whatever Saturn, Mercury, Venus we're making real. Nodes and Neptune. Strong, strong, strong construction energy, striving energy, fighting for energy. We're intensely immersed, totally body and soul and spirit sucked into something that is happening. And I want to believe with every fiber of my being that it's something really positive, not just the bad side of things and all the bad expressions of Pisces that are playing. But to be totally honest, this was no surprise to any astrologer. Pisces is always martyr and things that make you cry big on a soul level. Things that really make you not want to be a material physical being. And if we put to this energetic Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, well, of course, we are gonna be horrified, mortified, crying. Oh my goodness. Like, this part was not a mystery for absolute. Let me just no one had the courage to admit it to themselves and to even talk about this. Me, very much included. Like, right? So, energetic Neptune. I'm not gonna. This is part of it, but the opposite should be aggressively, obsessively much more part of it. And that's our job to make, if we want to obsess on, that's it. The opposite. The dream, the magic, the world peace, or whatever. The opposite. And dissolving the aggressive dogmatism in anything. And then also in April, when on the 12th Venus retrograde, and so she will try to move direct. On the 18th, Mars goes back into Leo, goes direct into Leo, starting to hold the opposition with Pluto. Again, this is the third time. And you know the energy. Something humbles us, something is bigger than us, something feels massive. But because the trine, right? I hope it's something really, really beautiful and positive and really good. Really, really, really good. Like peace, for example. And on the 20th, and this is what I love. On the 20th, so April, Neptune is in Aries. Neptune left an erratic position of Pisces and is at 0 degrees of Aries, along with Mercury, but yeah. It means Mars, very, very powerful and comfortable in Leo, trining Neptune. And this is a fire trine. Neptune, the watery energy in fire, steam. Steam is, understand it as a spirit. In the steam industrial age, or how you call it, the steam age, it was literally spirit was animating matter with the steam. That era was one of the most magical eras of human history, even more magical than any Atlantis or any distant past. Why? Of peace and the golden. Yes, 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 yes. But the steam age one was when anything in spirit, for a short, very brief period, coexisted in quasi peace. But it coexisted. Nothing from the spirit was discriminated, and everything was fine with. That is what this energy tells me alchemically, the steam that makes everything real. I really want to hope that that is going to be part of this energy. The realness of something bigger than life. When the dream is already lived and it's magic, or what we fought for is there. That doesn't mean the battle is done, but we see the reason to keep on fighting big time. And then on the 25th, Mars and Pluto perfect their opposition. And also at the same time, Venus, going direct by now, conjoins Saturn. So it makes, again, something real. And Pluto, bigger than life, bigger than something overwhelms us. But this is the third time these planets perfect their opposition. So that's why I hope it's not the typical powerlessness and power struggle that is in the first two expressions of the same opposition. Let's move into May, where the star of the show is Saturn following Neptune into Aries. So at this moment, both of these planets are in 25th, I think, in Aries. So this is the first glimpse of whatever these two planets want to bring to the table. The ultra new, what has came from the ether and spirit into our reality. What visited us from the realm of spirit is gonna show itself. The first, the tip of the iceberg, of course. Then we can already move into June, really. Oh, this software thing. So June, there we go. So on the 1st of June, we have Venus conjoining Chiron. This can be a massive moment of healing because the moon conjoins Mars as well in the sign of Leo. And that means a trine, heart energy, big time heart energy, and also big time sexual healing for some. Such powerful sexual healing that it actually heals a physical problem of yours. Like it heals a disease that has nothing to do with sexuality. I don't know, like, let me give you a silly example, which actually someone who I know happened to them. You get such a big type of, I don't know, orgasm, or where your kidney stone, kidney sand, something that has been bugging you for years is gone in a millisecond. And as I said, I know a person, actually not even one, who this has happened to them. So it's possible. Then another important thing in June, on the 10th here, I wrote in my notes, Jupiter moves into Cancer. It exits Gemini and moves into Cancer, where it loves being. And as it moves into Cancer, is greeted by the ruler of Gemini, Mercury. So it's almost like Jupiter brings immediately to our awareness that we're not in Kansas anymore. We're already in the realm of Cancer. Again, Jupiter loves Cancer. This is where Jupiter many times acts as the typical Jupiter that is truly such a misinformation. Okay, sorry, I need to translate it. You know, the astrological cliche is the bad astrology, the silly astrology. Jupiter is luck and lucky, and your Jupiter sign tells you where you're lucky. That's BS. However, there is that moment when that is not BS, and this when Jupiter is in Cancer. Because it brings out that generosity. It brings out that care where you don't need to look for the mystery of what luck even means. What when luck spoils, where to search for luck inside of your soul. And no, when it's in Cancer, it's where, yeah, let's just dish it up. Let's rub the honey in. So that's why everyone kind of loves Jupiter in Cancer. And when Jupiter is in Cancer, every 12 years is when people do something big in any way, shape, and form. Positively construct, community, people do something big. So that's good, really, isn't it? Ultimately, people using their people power. Luck and Jupiter in Cancer most of the time we don't follow the herd. And it's a big no. Oh, goodness, don't follow the herd. When Jupiter is in Cancer, there's a good herd and follow them. You know, there's where the baby buffalo who doesn't stray away from mom is safe. Follow the herd in that sense. Then also, we have for the last time in this configuration, the opening Saturn-Jupiter square, but now in fire sign. What the new beginning means. We begin anew, or something new is on the table, but we need to adapt to it big time, right? Because as I said, this is not necessarily where we create something, and that's the new. A new is dished out, we need to adapt to it. May that be Saturn in Aries, right? New leader, new political system, new anything. Constitution, Jupiter in Cancer, will of the people, new anything. That's the head of Aries, the head. We must not forget that Pluto just recently finished its job in Capricorn. So, yeah. I think you kind of get what I mean. But personally, whatever we philosophized at the mutable expressions of the same square. So, for example, now when you're listening to this horoscope, that's when put it into practice in June next year. So July is important-ish because Neptune conjoins Saturn. However, this is just technical because they were conjoined for a very long time. Just that this is their mathematic moment when they mathematically. So I'm not even gonna. They are working together. The dream, let's make it real. And Aries, the self, the individuality, sovereignty, the leader, the head. July is also extra special because Uranus, yep, moves into Gemini on the 7th. 7-7. Yep, but before it does so, Venus, the ruler of Taurus, conjoins Uranus again, almost like a final preparation. Do not worry, Uranus will retrograde back into Taurus, but right now it's in Gemini. So a big, big, big energy activating Sedna. This will blow our minds. This is where who will we learn to communicate with? Right? Understand this as you will. But this is where communication is from the future by now. What will this mean? We'll see. Telepathy or brain chips or, remember, Gemini, communication, mental sphere, etc., etc., interhuman connections, media, a lot. What will this mean? We shall see, but it's also something financial, and it has also something to do with love. Uranus and Venus in Gemini together with Sedna. What was banned that now is not, that is free? Like, let me give an example. The dark web, no censorship. Everything is free. You can look at whatever it is your heart desires, no censorship. This is because Venus. If you don't want to see the ugly, do not look at it. Your sovereign decision. An example, but brotherhood, sisterhood, mixing Venus in the picture. It's okay to love each other in any way you like, as long as Gemini, two consensus on the table. Anything goes. So maybe things that were illegal, right, between siblings before are now not considered so, because ancient Egypt, right? Not are things new or not? Not really. That in itself, which becomes legal again, is really not nothing new. Science itself is demasked for everything that it's just theorizes and doesn't know anything about. So yeah, think Uranus will complicate this, so the mind, what knowledge, information, science even, perceiving reality means, it will complicate that so much where physics will be dethroned by quantum physics. This is where maybe Newtonian physics will have the same fate as astrology once did. It's myth a bit. In the light of new understanding of reality and the world. And Gemini twin. There is that page from the Akashic records where our sun never ever started out as a single star, but it was a binary system with a brother it had who, I don't know why, to be totally honest with you, but ended up in the other side of the galaxy. Gemini, what if the sun's brother, quantum entanglement, right, remembers the sun, and what if they never ever separated really in communication, and who knows what can that conjure up in the future? Anyway, let's move on to, well, let's cut into September. Well, September is important because Saturn retrogrades back into Pisces and erratic degree. So again, something is brewing. Something is, Saturn adding the finishing, ending, right? Saturn is ending something, but for real, for good, forever. And September is the second eclipse season, because on the 7th of September, we have a total lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces. So, again, very, very precise. There's only 8 degrees difference between, sorry, my timing isn't correct, because there isn't really. Let me just try and, there we are. There's only 3 degrees distance between the moon and the north node, and the sun and the south node respectively. Of course, south node being in the opposite sign of Virgo. Very precise, very close, very meticulous eclipse. And again, total lunar eclipse, emphasizing a big ending. However, remember 2024, autumn 2024, when we had yet another eclipse in Pisces. Another big ending energy. And whatever that emptied, I do believe that this particular Pisces lunar eclipse will simply disinfect, almost prepare the ground for 21st of September. A new energy is born with the partial solar eclipse. Is 21st, yes, at Anaretic Virgo, 29 degrees of Virgo, a new moon. Very, very powerful in so very, very many ways. And what does this mean? We need to find a solution to something, no matter what it takes, but we have the power, we have everything. We truly have everything we need, including the wisdom, motivation, determination, and knowledge with Saturn in Pisces. And as a wrap up, I will also mention October, because on the 22nd of October, Neptune follows Saturn back into Pisces, an heretic Pisces ruler Neptune in it. We know what I said earlier. An heretic Pisces is not a mystery to anyone. It drowns. The sea is harsh. The sea is cruel. The sea demands sacrifices. Sedna, for example. But you know what I mean. Martyrdom, victims, tears, all of that. But because this is, remember, the end of the end, we give a meaning to it. We wrap it up with we close it. Saturn, right? That's why it's there. And November is going to be when Uranus retrogrades back into Taurus, doing the same thing as Saturn in Pisces, finishing whatever it needs to complete in Taurus. So money, banking, currency, technology within agriculture, the landscape of the earth, even, will be different. I'm not even sure. I don't want to make it sound scary, but Uranus, the upgrade, and for the last moment, final touch in 70 something years. So we can expect all of that. And with this, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being with me in 2024. I hope to see you in 2025 as well. But again, for all, and I mean this for all of us, we are yet to see what is gonna be born before our eyes, and we need to adapt to that. So we cannot take anything for granted. So thank you, everyone. Wishing you a very, very happy and empowered new year. Until next time, bye for now.